March 9th, 1945, 10:30 p.m. Shitamachi District, Tokyo. Air raid sirens wailed across the darkened Japanese capital, the latest in over 100 alerts since November 1944. Most residents of the densely packed wooden neighborhoods initially dismissed this warning as they had others. American B-29s typically flew at 30,000 feet, dropping bombs that rarely hit their intended military targets. But tonight would be different. In the next 3 hours, 279 Boeing B-29 Superfortresses would drop 1,665 tons of incendiary bombs on Tokyo, killing between 83,000 and 100,000 people in what remains the single deadliest air raid in human history. The survivors would witness not just the destruction of their capital, but the complete collapse of Japan's illusions about its ability to continue the war. The approaching bombers flew at just 5,000 to 9,000 feet, not the usual 30,000, each stripped of most defensive guns to carry maximum bomb loads. They carried M69 napalm cluster bombs specifically designed to create firestorms in cities built of wood and paper. American planners had studied Tokyo's vulnerabilities for months, even testing incendiary weapons on replica Japanese buildings at Dugway Proving Ground in Utah. What unfolded that night would destroy 267,171 buildings, according to Tokyo Metropolitan Police records, leave over 1 million homeless, and demonstrate with brutal clarity that Japan faced an enemy with overwhelming technological and industrial superiority: the revolutionary tactics. Major General Curtis LeMay had arrived in the Marianas in January 1945 to revitalize the failing strategic bombing campaign. The sophisticated B-29s, each costing $639,188, more than a warship, had achieved minimal results flying precision bombing missions at high altitude. Jet stream winds reaching 250 miles per hour scattered bombs miles from targets, while cloud cover and mechanical problems plagued operations. LeMay made a radical decision. On March 8th, he briefed his commanders on new tactics that would transform aerial warfare. The B-29s would fly at night at low altitude, strip most defensive armament to increase bomb capacity, and use incendiaries rather than high explosives. LeMay was so uncertain about the plan that he didn't inform his superior, General Henry Hap Arnold, later admitting he wanted to protect Arnold from blame if the mission failed. The target was carefully selected. The Shitamachi district covered 10.1 square miles of densely packed wooden buildings housing 750,000 people. Office of Strategic Services analysts had used pre-war Japanese insurance maps and building surveys to identify the most vulnerable areas. They knew that March 9th's seasonal winds, predicted at 17 to 28 miles per hour, would spread fires rapidly. The night of black snow. At 12:08 a.m. on March 10th, Pathfinder B-29s arrived over Tokyo at 7,000 feet. Searchlights caught them clearly, so low that observers could see crew members in the glass noses. The Pathfinders dropped M47 incendiary bombs in an X pattern centered on the most densely populated working-class districts near the Sumida River in Koto and Chuo wards. The main force followed in 3-hour waves. According to the official U.S. Strategic Bombing Survey, 279 B-29s successfully dropped their loads over Tokyo out of 334 that participated in the mission. Each bomber carried approximately 6 tons of incendiaries, primarily E-46 clusters containing 38 M69 napalm bombs each. These weapons, developed by Standard Oil Development Company, were specifically designed to penetrate Japanese tile roofs and spray napalm that would stick to any surface and couldn't be extinguished with water. Within 30 minutes, individual fires merged into a firestorm, a phenomenon where superheated air creates its own wind system. Ground-level winds exceeded 100 miles per hour, temperatures reached 1,800 degrees Fahrenheit, and the fire created updrafts so powerful they tossed 140,000-pound B-29s around like leaves. according to tail gunner testimony from the 52nd Bombardment Squadron recorded in military archives. Documented survivor accounts. Haruyo Nihei, 8 years old at the time, gave testimony to the centre of the Tokyo raids and war damage that has been preserved and verified by multiple sources. There was a strong wind that night, and as I came out of the shelter, all I could see around us was fire. Burning clothing, tatami mats and debris were blowing down the road, and it looked like a flowing river of fire. I saw a baby on fire on a mother's back. I saw children on fire, but they were still running. Yoshiko Hashimoto, a 24-year-old mother, survived with her baby but lost her parents and sister. Her account, recorded by American occupation authorities and preserved at the National Archives, describes jumping into the Sumida River. The heat was unbearable. My mother took off her protective hood from her head, put it on my head, and looked into my eyes. I managed to float to a raft and placed my baby on it. His eyes were wide open. I was worried that he might be dying. Katsumoto Saotomi, who was 12 during the raid and later founded the Center of the Tokyo Raids and War Damage, spent decades collecting survivor testimonies. His own account, published in multiple historical texts, states, "The B-29s dropped their bombs and it sounded like rain. I was astounded to see the intensity of the air raid. My parents died in the fire. For us survivors, the post-war period will never end." Official Japanese response. Tokyo Metropolitan Police records, discovered in archives after the war, document the immediate impact. Police chief reports from various wards paint a picture of complete catastrophe. The Tokyo Fire Department's official report, filed March 10th and classified most secret until 1952, stated 96 fire trucks destroyed. 88 firefighters confirmed dead, 37 missing. Firefighting efforts completely ineffective. Water evaporated before reaching flames. Estimated minimum 80,000 dead, later revised to 83,793 confirmed dead. The physical destruction was precisely documented. 267,171 buildings destroyed, 1,008,005 people rendered homeless, 15.8 square miles of the city completely incinerated. These figures come from official Tokyo Metropolitan Government records and have been verified by both Japanese and American historians. Emperor Hirohito's response. Emperor Hirohito's reaction is documented through the diary of his Lord Keeper of the Privy Seal, Marquis Kido Koichi, whose records have been preserved and translated. On March 18, 1945, Hirohito made an unprecedented 6-hour inspection tour of the destroyed areas. According to Kido's diary entry that day, His Majesty returned from viewing the destroyed areas of Tokyo. The Emperor said the war must be brought to an end as quickly as possible. Multiple witnesses, including Prince Konoe Fumimaro, former Prime Minister, recorded that the Emperor was visibly shaken by what he saw. The tour marked a turning point. Hirohito began actively seeking ways to end the war, though it would take 5 more months and 2 atomic bombs before surrender became possible. Military leadership's assessment. Japanese military documents captured after the war reveal leadership's understanding of their helplessness. A report from Imperial General Headquarters dated March 15, 1945, analysed the raid's implications. Enemy achieved approximately 36-to-1 casualty ratio, destroyed 50.8 square kilometres, using 1,665 tons of incendiaries. Enemy can eliminate all major cities using current B-29 inventory. No effective countermeasures exist. Admiral Soemu Toyoda, Chief of the Naval General Staff, stated in a documented War Council meeting that even if Americans had atomic weapons, they could not have many, and Japan should continue fighting. This assessment proved tragically wrong, but it shows military leaders understood the conventional bombing alone was devastating. American perspective. General Curtis LeMay later stated in his autobiography and in congressional testimony, We scorched and boiled and baked to death more people in Tokyo on that night of March 9th to 10th than went up in vapour at Hiroshima and Nagasaki combined. The moral weight of the decision was not lost on American planners. Robert McNamara, who worked as a statistical analyst for LeMay's command, stated in the documentary The Fog of War, "LeMay said if we'd lost the war, we'd all have been prosecuted as war criminals, and I think he's right." American aircrew testimonies, collected for the Strategic Bombing Survey, reveal their shock at the destruction. Major Thomas Power, leading the 314th Wing, reported, "The entire city was below us like a pot of boiling tar. The firestorm's characteristics. The U.S. Strategic Bombing Survey, conducted immediately after the war with access to all records, documented the firestorm's characteristics. Temperature at center, 1,800 degrees Fahrenheit, 980 degrees Celsius. Wind speeds, exceeding 100 miles per hour at ground level. Duration, approximately 6 hours of active firestorm. Area destroyed, 15.8 square miles. Buildings destroyed, 267,171 confirmed. Casualties, 83,793 confirmed dead, likely over 100,000. Injured, 40,918 confirmed. Homeless, 1,008,005. These figures come from the official survey conducted by American forces with Japanese cooperation and represent the most authoritative statistics available. Follow-up raids. The Tokyo raid initiated a systematic campaign. Documented raids on other cities followed. March 11th, Nagoya, 2 square miles destroyed. March 13th, Osaka, 8.1 square miles destroyed. March 16th, Kobe, 3 square miles destroyed. March 19th, Nagoya again, 3 square miles destroyed. By war's end, B-29s had attacked 66 Japanese cities, destroying 178 square miles of urban area and killing between 300,000 and 400,000 civilians, according to the Strategic Bombing Survey. Industrial impact. Japanese production statistics, compiled by occupation authorities from company records, show the devastating industrial impact. Tokyo's industrial output, reduced by 50%. Skilled workers killed, estimated 22,000. Small factories destroyed, over 1,400. Transportation infrastructure, 50% destroyed. Power generation, reduced by 73%. The Mitsubishi Aircraft Engine Works, though not directly hit, ceased production because 60% of workers were dead or homeless and subcontractors were destroyed. The technological gap. Analysis of captured Japanese documents reveals their understanding of the technological gulf. The Japanese military's own assessments acknowledged B-29 production, 100 per month, American capacity. Japanese fighter production, 200 per month, all types. B-29 operational ceiling, 31,000 feet. Japanese fighter ceiling, most couldn't reach B-29 altitude. Radar-directed guns, Japan had virtually none. Night fighters, Japan had no effective models. Each B-29 represented technology Japan couldn't match: pressurized cabins, centralized fire control, radar navigation, and 2,200 horsepower engines. Japan's best fighter, the Ki-84, couldn't reliably intercept them. The path to surrender. While the atomic bombings of August 1945 are often credited with ending the war, Japanese documents show leadership understood after the March firebombing that defeat was inevitable. Foreign Minister Shigenori Togo's cables to Ambassador Sato in Moscow, intercepted and decoded by American intelligence, show Japan desperately seeking Soviet mediation for peace terms as early as May 1945. Prince Konoe's Memorial to the Throne of February 14, 1945, already warned the emperor that continuing the war risked communist revolution. After witnessing Tokyo's destruction, this concern intensified. Maki Kido's diary documents the emperor's growing determination to end the war throughout spring and summer 1945. Admiral Onishi's final testament. Admiral Takejiro Onishi, creator of the kamikaze program, committed ritual seppuku on August 16, 1945, the day after the emperor's surrender broadcast. His suicide note, preserved in military archives, apologized to the spirits of the kamikaze pilots and urged young Japanese to work for peace. He deliberately refused a kaishakunin, second, enduring 15 hours of agony before death as penance. While not directly caused by the Tokyo firebombing, Onishi's death represented the culmination of military leadership's recognition that conventional American bombing had already defeated Japan. Statistical summary. The most authoritative statistics come from the U.S. Strategic Bombing Survey and Tokyo Metropolitan Government Records, March 9th to 10th, 1945. Raid, B-29s. Participating 334 total, 279 dropped bombs. Bombs dropped 1,665 tons of incendiaries. Area destroyed 15.8 square miles. Buildings destroyed, 267,171. Confirmed dead, 83,793, likely over 100,000. Injured, 40,918. Homeless, 1,008,005. American losses, 14, B-29s, 96 airmen. Overall firebombing campaigns, cities attacked, 66. Urban area destroyed, 178 square miles. Civilians killed, 300,000 to 400,000. Made homeless, 8.5 million. Industrial capacity destroyed, 60 to 70%. Historical assessment. The United States Strategic Bombing Survey concluded the firebombing campaign against Japan's cities contributed substantially to Japan's decision to surrender by demonstrating the hopelessness of continued resistance. Japanese historian Katsumoto Saotome, after decades studying the raids, stated, "The March 10th raid showed Japan's complete helplessness against American technology. The atomic bombs ended the war, but the firebombing had already demonstrated we had lost." American historian Richard Frank, in his comprehensive study Downfall, wrote, "The firebombing campaign killed more Japanese than both atomic bombs, combined, and destroyed more urban area than any bombing campaign in history." The moral debate. The morality of targeting civilians remains controversial. Curtis LeMay defended his actions in his 1965 autobiography. "We're at war with Japan. Do you want to kill Japanese, or would you rather have Americans killed?" Historian Michael Sherry, in The Rise of American Air Power, argued the raids constituted terror bombing. Others, like Richard Frank, contend they hastened war's end, saving lives that would have been lost in invasion. Japanese courts have consistently ruled the raids were not illegal under international law of the time, though a 2007 Tokyo District Court called them indiscriminate bombing that must be said to be inhumane. Legacy and memory. Unlike Hiroshima and Nagasaki, which have peace museums and international recognition, Tokyo's firebombing remains relatively unknown. The Tokyo Metropolitan Government maintains a small memorial hall, and Katsumoto Saotome's private center of the Tokyo raids and war damage preserves survivor testimonies. The disparity reflects how nuclear weapons overshadowed conventional bombing in post-war memory, despite the firebombing's comparable or greater destruction. This selective memory shapes how we understand the war's end. Conclusion. On March 9th to 10th, 1945, 279 American B-29s transformed aerial warfare by creating the deadliest firestorm in human history. The raid killed between 83,000 and 100,000 people, destroyed 267,171 buildings, and demonstrated Japan's complete vulnerability to American air power. The survivors witnessed more than their capital's destruction. They saw the technological and industrial gulf that made Japan's defeat inevitable. Every major Japanese leader who left records acknowledged this reality, though it took 5 more months and atomic weapons to make surrender politically possible. The Tokyo firebombing proved that modern war had become industrialized destruction. Japan, which had entered the war believing spiritual strength could overcome material disadvantage, discovered that courage meant nothing against an enemy that had turned death into science and production statistics. When Emperor Hirohito toured the ruins on March 18, 1945, he saw what his people already knew. Japan faced not just military defeat, but potential annihilation. The B-29s that turned 15.8 square miles of Tokyo into ash in 6 hours had delivered a message clearer than any propaganda. Resistance meant extinction. The 1,665 tons of incendiaries dropped that night didn't just burn buildings, they incinerated Japan's last illusions about its ability to continue the war. In the ashes of 267,171 buildings lay the end of Imperial Japan's ambitions and the birth of a new understanding. When your enemy can destroy your cities at will while you cannot touch theirs, the war is already over. The debate over necessity and morality continues, but the historical facts remain clear. The firebombing of Tokyo was the deadliest air raid in history, killed more people than either atomic bomb, and demonstrated with mathematical certainty that Japan had lost the war. The survivors knew the end was near because they had witnessed the future of warfare, and it belonged entirely to their enemies.